UKMotorTalk.
Hello everyone and welcome back to UK Motor Talk. I'm Mike, hello.
I'm Jim, hello. I mean, no comment.
I'm Graham, hello again.
And I'm Dave, at least I think I am. How is everyone doing? Are we all right, apart from Mr. No Comment, who won't tell us even if he is?
No comment.
Well, if he could, I mean, it's hard to know which words you would use to explain how he is. And indeed whether we could broadcast those.
I would probably use both the words and just to keep our editor, Andrew, happy with the bleep machine, but apart from that, no comment.
I think we've got to talk about this off the bat, haven't we, surely? This is absolutely absurd. There's been some fantastic clip compilations floating around as well, haven't there? Lots of different people swearing. But for those of us that have no idea what this is relating to, would you like to give us some context?
No comment.
Anyone else?
Actually, yes, I will make a comment. I mean, it's the sentiment and the general gist of it is the FIA, in inverted commas, want less swearing in Formula One. Sort of forgetting that, I mean, Formula One is almost the pinnacle of the motor trade, isn't it? It's the very best mechanics in the world, so there's going to be a bit of swearing, isn't there? Let's be honest. They want less swearing overall, so even less use of the beat machine. Now, there's a couple of sort of 3 points really to raise. Number one is, okay, yes, fine, maybe a bit less swearing, certainly in press conferences and things like that, things that are being broadcast at 11 in the morning, midday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yes, in sort of the official, la-di-da FIA press conference, maybe a bit less swearing. But there's Mohammed Ben Sulayem had also said, well, we need less swearing over the radio. It's like, well, I'm sorry, these are drivers to 200 plus miles an hour with a heartbeat of, 150 beats per minute plus, inches away from each other. If somebody bangs into somebody or smacks somebody into a wall or something, there's going to be a bit of swearing because these are all grown men that have grown up in a paddock full of technicians, basically. And it's, the motor trade is the last bastion of sweary language on this planet. So there's going to be swearing, isn't there? And there's,
You haven't been on a building site recently.
But building site footballers, you put how many footballers swear? You can see every time they miss a ball, they mouth some potty language. Every time they get tapped into and roll around on the floor for 10 minutes because they're mortally injured. I mean, no, they're absolutely fine. They get up and straighten the man bun and then swear at somebody. These are grown men. This is their sport. If you don't want to broadcast it over the radio, this is between the drivers and the teams. They're chatting to their own teams. Don't broadcast it or put the bleep machine out there. The third thing I have to say is the massive racism that Mohammed Ben Sulayem displayed by saying, comparing them all to rappers. We're not rappers. We're not rap artists. What bleeping planet is this guy on? He just seems to alienate himself more and more and more as each day goes by, and it's just the bloke's got to go. And he's like, like I say, I get the sentiment, but he just comes across in such a bad way with these sort of things, and then says to Max Verstappen, he gets the stewards to go and dish out a bit of community service or something like that. I mean, just piss off and grow up, will you? It's ridiculous. Apart from that, no comment.
I think the other thing is that it's very easy for us to watch a race. You watch the cars flying around and you might hear the language and, okay, say for some reason, for some unknown reason that you find that language offensive. Imagine that you spend every day of your life training to the point of breaking yourself physically, being constantly focused on trying to be the absolute best that you can be for that short period of time in a car, and then suddenly someone comes and takes you out. For example, you've spent months, years and years and years to be the best sports person you possibly can be, the best driver, and there you are at the top of your game, and suddenly you get wiped out by somebody. You're going to be a bit cross, aren't you? It's not going to be like someone's
going to say the words and aren't you? It's just as simple as that. Okay, yeah, in the press conference, but also there's what he's sort of failing to take into account is regional and dialect differences. I mean, Dutch TV, for example, there's no censorship. You can swear middle of the day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever you want. They just swear. that's it. That's how the country is. That's how TV is. They just swear. So I think to sort of censor Max Verstappen and say, "Oh no, you mustn't be swearing," it's not being quite aligned with the upbringing or the cultural differences or anything like. The Dutch are swearing enthusiasts, aren't they? So to say don't swear is saying don't be Dutch, which is a bit daft.
It's all very restrained, though, given the sort of incident that Michael was referring to there. In the 70s and 80s, you'd have a stand-up fist fight as both of the guys got out of their cars. They tend to walk away having usually thrown a £500,000 steering wheel at somebody, which is an offence in itself these days, I understand. But it's much more restrained now. So I think we can tolerate a certain amount of swearing. If they're not actually swapping blows, they're behaving themselves.
I mean, there'll certainly be something else to add to Drive to Survive, wouldn't it, if they got out of the car and then started laying into each other. I see what you mean, though. I'm just trying to think whether you might have seen Hunt tolerating people complaining about his language or what he would have to say about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I also had in mind Michael Schumacher on the look on his face as he decided he was going to beat the shit out of David Coulthard, who he still thought had savaged the back of his car. It took a number of fairly loose-tongued but fortunately strong-limbed mechanics to keep the two apart. Very wisely, Coulthard kept his helmet on.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. If you're going to have a ruck with somebody, at least leave your helmet on, and then you can just chin him, can't you? And then he'd be well away. But yeah, I just think it's yet another FIA or, in particular, Mohammed Ben Sulayem decision, and just gone about it completely the wrong way. And it's just, I don't know, is it time for the bloke to go? He just seems to have a wonderful way of rubbing everybody up the wrong way, alienating everyone, and he just sort of seems to pick a group of people or a group of fans one by one and alienate them. I mean, if you're going to alienate Lewis Hamilton fans by the events of Abu Dhabi that year, which we probably shouldn't talk about, and then now you're alienating Max Verstappen fans, I mean, there can't be many more groups of fans left to alienate. You're either Team LH or Team Max Verstappen, aren't you? So that's probably 80% of the fan base gone, isn't it?
Just changing the subject slightly, as in watching the race at the weekend, something that did catch my eye, and I should have been aware of it, but I think it was Carlos Sainz doing an practice start as he went down to the line to the formation, and he did the practice start, and the camera caught his dashboard, or his dashboard, I use that word in its loosest sense, the speedometer on the wheel, and he went from 30 clicks to nearly 200 in probably less than 2 seconds. That's quite impressive.
They're still fast, even though they're big, heavy things in comparison to what they used to be. They're still the pinnacle. They're still the fastest thing. I was just watching something, again, just to go slightly off topic here, but I was watching a YouTube video today. I think it was Top Gear. Ollie Marriage was testing the ground effect. Is it the Spearling? He had that at Dunsfold.
Oh, yeah,
and
the
that
McMurtry.
the McMurtry.
Spearling.
That thing is just bonkers. They reckon it's got various levels. The one that they're developing now is going to be allegedly the one that they release to the public. It's a weapon that shouldn't be released to the public. It's insane. But they reckon it's got various levels of performance. So you've got sort of world sports car level, you've got sort of Formula level, and then you got Formula One level. And the Formula One level, they reckon it will out accelerate, or at least basically replicate the Formula One experience round corners as well, because the thing is so mental, it hoovers itself to the ground, goes around corners like it's on rails. So I think the time is coming where we're probably going to be able to finally experience what that acceleration that young Mr. Science was playing with is actually like. I mean, whether it'll ever filter down to us mere mortals, we'll probably have to make do with things like Teslas in ludicrous mode still, but it just reminded me of that, and they're saying that this is basically the closest thing you're likely to get in the real world.
This was the car that briefly held the hill record at Goodwood, wasn't it?
It's still got it. It still holds the record.
It's still got it by some margin, hasn't it? I think
it will have forever,
the
probably.
Spearling's sub 40 seconds, isn't it? By by some stretch.
We were there,
but yeah,
weren't
I think
we?
I was standing at the exit of the collecting area as it went by on that record. I just could not believe how rapidly that thing was moving. And I'd been standing there for quite some time watching some very quick cars go by in a position that the marshals were sort of tolerating me standing in. But I just couldn't believe how quick it went by there.
Well, I think, as you say, the acceleration of Sainz's car, that 30 to 200, is probably the more impressive bit. I think the 0 to 60 of an F1 car, 0 to 60 miles an hour, that is never normally that impressive. As an F1 car, much of its grip gets generated the faster it goes. Bless you.
Bless you.
But
Thank
the advantage of the McMurtry is that using the fan, it can generate all that downforce at such a low speed. The F1 car, the quicker it goes, the quicker it can go. And it's the top speed and the high speed that's more impressive. The fact that McMurtry can pull 5G doing, 0 miles an hour, it can just suck itself onto the ground. That's where its phenomenal acceleration comes from. The F1 car is, all about high speed.
Unless it's Gordon Murray and it's 1979.
Oh, the fan
Well, that's
car.
true. That's true.
Which is why they banned it and why it will never, ever come back, I suspect.
With throwing stones out the back, it was accused of damaging following cars' windscreens, wasn't it? I seem to remember they were fairly minimal then.
Yeah. So anyway, just to finish up on the Formula One for the weekend. Well done to Norris. Great race. And looking good, but if rumours are to be believed, I think that was the last race for Daniel Ricciardo, and I just wanted to mark the occasion. Really, I mean, he's been phenomenal to watch. He's been one of the best racers of the last. I mean, when did he start? 2012, 2013, something like that. Back in the HRT, wasn't it? So he's had a long career shown. I think there's been a couple of years at least where he's been the best driver on the grid for the entire season, never necessarily in the best car, which has been the problem. But some of the racing, some of the overtaking moves he's pulled off over the years have been a joy to watch. I think he put Sebastian Vettel in his place. He ran Max Verstappen very, very close indeed when they were teammates. And I was lucky enough to meet him actually back in sort of 2018. Red Bull took me to the Grand Prix, and I was probably one of 1,000, 2,000 people that he'd had to line up and shake hands and say hello to and whatever else. But his smile, his warmth, he took a couple of minutes to have a chat to me, and it's a day that will live long in my memories for the rest of my life, really. Lovely bloke, smashing human being, cracking racer. Thank you for the memories, Daniel. And if this is the last weekend, at least it was the no controversy over stealing the point off McLaren, was it, for the benefit of Max Verstappen, anything like that. Daniel Ricciardo's last lap in Formula One, fastest lap, and that's the way he should have gone out. Fastest man on the track. Thank you, Daniel.
Since we last all met, what else have people been up to? I mean, I've caught all kinds of different bits of public transport, and goodness knows what I've caught from public transport. I caught several trains yesterday, which was an absolute delight, including an East Midlands train, which I've not been on before. Exciting. The driver opened the door at one point, because I was right at the front of the train, and sort of stepped out because all the water was coming through the roof of his cab, all over him driving the train. And it has been biblical, the weather. Has anyone seen the paper today, the tailgate of a Mondeo sticking up just out of the flood? They had the boot open, the hatch back, and it was just the very, very top of the tail lamp, so you could see just sticking out in the flood, because it has been really, really heavy, that rain again, hasn't it?
I went down a country road near us a couple of days ago, fairly early in the morning, and we decided to turn back and not even attempt it. And there was already a queue in front of us, but I think the giveaway was the tractor in the field, which was obviously the floodplain, and only the upper half of the cab of the tractor was visible. The rest was underwater. So there was about 3, 4, maybe 5 feet of water, and I was delighted as I pulled away to see the number of Teslas that thought they might give it a go.
You'd probably be all right in Tesla.
I didn't stay to watch.
Yeah, you would hope the connectors to the battery are waterproof at least, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be well away.
You'd hope so. But if you're driving into anything, into 3+ feet of water, your chances of getting through are fairly slim. Your chances
3
of
foot,
dying
yes.
are quite high. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, in this case, the middle of the bridge parapet had disappeared. Now, reasonable rule of thumb would be that the bridge parapet would be at least 3 to 4 feet high. The middle of it had disappeared, so there was at least 3 feet, maybe 4 feet of water there.
Yeah, just why? And unless you're in an enterprise rent-a-car that you've paid the collision damage waiver on, why would you even attempt it?
People do.
Other hire car companies are available.
It's the attitude is, well, I always drive this road to work in the mornings. Why shouldn't I go through there? Well, the crashed Astra that had already attempted it and sort of slid off at the last minute and hit the corner of the bridge was perhaps a good idea not to try and follow that sort of example. But there we are.
Is one less Astra on the road any bad thing?
Well, no. Nature finds a way.
As our editor glares at me sideways, but actually, if there's one less Astra on the road, it makes yours more valuable because it
That's
makes
very
it
true.
rarer, so it appreciates. So there we go.
And it's one more to pick for parts, isn't it? To keep
Yes,
going.
it's also true.
Slightly soggy
Bangonomics.
parts, but apart from that, it might only be a roof liner that you could get off it. But yeah,
I'm just amazed how many people do think that they can drive through deep water and they will survive and so will their car. People are very, very poor at judging what the depth of that water is. I mean, if it's above the curbs, then it's at least 6 inches deep. If it's above the fence, then it's at least 3 feet deep. And any more than that, and you get out and swim.
Well, the normal.
well, this is again this goes all the way back to, I think this is the issue we have these days with speed limits and rules and safety devices and automatic speed limiters and lane centering controls and this, that, the other. It just kind of dumbs everything down. I mean, it's the original issue with sat-navs, wasn't it? That would lead people down a closed street, and they say, well, the sat-nav told me to turn down here. It's like, yes, but you need to look at the road signs. Yes, but the sat-nav said turn down here. And I think there's a scene in the American Office, isn't there? Turn right. Well, no, the sat-nav must be right. And they turn right and crash into a river or something or other. But it's that, oh no, the car told me to do it. The computer told me to do it. Why isn't the safety system there for it? It's just the removal of responsibility, isn't it? It's the old adage of make something idiot-proof and somebody will invent a better idiot, won't they?
You see that on the roads every day. But I was just amused by people that obviously thought they could get through it. When the milk truck, who's probably got a ground clearance of about 3 feet, decided to turn around and give up, then I think it was probably good evidence that it was not worth trying. But there you go.
Where has all this weather been? 'Cause it's been all right-ish on the sunny south coast where we live, hasn't it, Gates?
No, we've been having some absolute downpours at night time, particularly. Also over the Goodwood Revival weekend, and if anyone saw any of the footage from Goodwood, it's just everyone just might as well have been in a boat. Just pure mud bath everywhere, and amazingly huge rooster tails coming off the back of cars, which were just drifting at the end of Woodcote and going through the chicanes, just completely sideways, which was hilarious to watch. You can see all this still on YouTube, so worth a look, but it was a really, really wet weekend. So we have had lots of weather. And of course, there's other parts of the country which have been largely underwater. But our biggest issue really around here is that everyone wants to build houses down here. So all the floodplains have been built on, all the fields have been built on. And so all the water just has nowhere to go anymore. So it just routinely we get flooding.
Part of it, a good proportion of it, is down to the driver not having the common sense they were born with these days. I mean, it's a common trope that I keep coming back to, but you drive anywhere these days, and I see it focused down to infinity by going in and out of West London 2 or 3 days a week, and it's just amply demonstrated that nobody really knows what they're doing. And add water to the mix and you've got the perfect, no pun intended, storm. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's like, oh, it's water, I'll just drive through it. Why wouldn't I? If you've ever been off-roading, anyone who's ever been off-roading, if you come across any depth of water, you get out of your Land Rover or whatever and you prod the hole with a stick to go and see how far down the water goes, because there's a very good chance that could go down to the centre of the earth for all you know. Chances are it won't, but it'll be enough to...
It's a quarry.
But it'll be enough to, and it's my turn to invoke the bleep machine to f*** up your car pretty badly. So So why would you not do that when you're on the road? If you see some deep water, what could possibly be in there? You'd have to think. But then again, that's the problem. Nobody thinks. So, I mean, the official advice is don't drive in anything more than about 10 centimetres, which I think is about 4 or 5 inches, something like that. Unless you know for a fact what's in there, but you don't know. Something could have got washed in there, so there could have been a great big burst water main. That's the reason that there's the standing water in the first place. It's just avoid problems. Don't make more problems because you're an arrogant, ignorant twat.
Well, I'd say at the very least you want to slow down when going through a deep puddle, because there's probably a pothole hidden in it somewhere, isn't there, that you want to be slightly careful of. But it's that, and unless you're in a car that's been lent to you and doesn't belong to you, in which case, have at it and see what happens. It's I just don't get why you'd risk your car like that, because it just doesn't make any sense. But it's the rule. Everything I was always taught was only drive as fast as you can see to stop safely. And I think that applies to everything.
Reasonable.
So if you can't see if the water's so deep you can't see the road, is it a good idea to drive through it? It's certainly not a good idea to drive through it at speed, but it's, if you can't see the road, why would you drive there? If you have no idea where the road is, why would you carry on driving? As you say, what's happened underneath it? Something broken entirely.
I do have a theory that we may soon be able to drive all the way to America, because I can't see with all this rainfall that there's any water left in the Atlantic.
The thing is with EVs, although we've sort of spoken about physical damage to the cars, from things that are in the water, of course, lots of people flood cars and that's it, engines hydraulic, game over. But EVs and the batteries are usually sealed, probably are a better prospect for going through any kind of reasonably deep water, because there's a bit less to get in. I suppose if it then does fill up your motor or your gearbox, the motor area at the back or front of your car, whatever, then you are going to end up with a really big problem.
Yeah, because I was always taught water and electrics don't mix.
Yes. Yeah.
The last time I checked what an electric motor was, it was a sort of a big magnet thing with a positive and a negative pole in it. And
yes,
if you sort of get water in between positive and negative, that's sort of mixing the water and electricity, isn't it? I think.
Tends to get a bit sparky and burny.
Yeah, could do.
I think the fish don't like it either. Tends to upset their bodily functions a little bit.
Well, it doesn't take too much to, of course, take a car away. If you've got a foot of water, a car can be carried away by it.
If it's fast moving, yes, that's quite possible.
Passenger before you know it. It's very deceptive. I think that's the thing. People think, I've driven through Fords, not cars. I've driven through water-type Fords, and I've driven through a bit of a puddle. It's all right, but the time they get caught out is it can be deceptive. It looks like it's not as deep as anything. You think it's not as deep as anything. Then you drive through it and you realise it's actually about 8 feet. You can only see the top of it, can't you? It could be a massive dip in the road for all you know.
Yeah.
It's just lack of thought. I'm sorry to say. Well, I'm not sorry to say. It's just fact of life. Everyone's an idiot these days.
Well, the other thing I always recommended was, if you think that you can follow somebody through who's obviously going through, wait a little while till the ripples settle, because otherwise suddenly that water's twice as deep from the point of view of your engine as it will be if you just exercise a little patience. But best bet is don't go there.
Probably the best I've seen over the years. I grew up in an area where we had an airport with a bridge that went underneath the railway. Small airport.
I was just thinking of that exact same little bit of road. And I was thinking the last time I came across a really, really deep bit of water that I wasn't sure about.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was an off-road test day at Millbrook, so I just thought, sod it, why not? Let's see what happens, because it's not our car. But the time before that, yes, was exactly through that little bridge, and I thought, no. And I just turned around and went the other way, and that was it.
This is at Shoreham Airport, for anyone wondering, down by where the border guard always used to sit, down by the bridge, and it's always quite deep under there. And I'd come to the top of the hill, facing down as if I was heading away from the airport itself, and stopped, because I wasn't sure how deep the water was. And then I saw a Model T coming the other way, and it absolutely breezed it. No problem. Because, of course, they're so high.
How old are you?
I'm very old. But the ground clearance on the Model T is excellent. Because, of course, they're designed to go down unmade cart tracks and bits and pieces, they were fine.
Yeah,
But it went straight through and out the other side, and I was
Yeah.
very, very impressed by it, and the fact that it was just using it in torrential rain. So I think that probably takes a certain amount of braveness. I can't imagine they're particularly watertight without side windows anyway.
I suppose at least they drain out easily.
I guess so. But yeah, I was very impressed with that. But from one Ford to another, Graham, you spotted something that tickled your pickle.
Oh, well, this was something. Well, in fact, Andrew sent it my way, but I think we've all now seen it, which is the shortlisted artworks, and I use that word in its loosest sense, for the Turner Prize at Tate Britain. And one of the ones that particularly delightful was the Escort, 70s Escort, probably bright red, with a large knitted doily over it.
Mark III. Yeah, Mark III. And blaring out music as well. I could just put the onion in there. Close enough,
What is
isn't it?
art? I don't understand art.
It's whatever you want it to be. As long
Yeah.
as somebody called Mr. Saatchi thinks it's good, in which case then all of a sudden everybody thinks it's good.
There are certain bits of
Cynical,
car
what?
design that I would mount to a wall because I think the cars are that beautiful that I would quite happily just sit there and look at them. I think an E-Type or something that would be very nice. Obviously, my thing for Aston Martins. And I realised it's largely Callum design cars that I seem to be particularly attracted to the way they look. I don't know. But nevertheless, there are lots of cars that are very sculptural and I think really quite pretty. And you could have those as pieces of art.
If you want to see great car design, take a look at the thing we did last year from the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, because there was an amazing collection of fabulous cars there.
Yeah, definitely worth a look at our YouTube. We are at UKMotorTalk, of course. But yeah, have a look and watch that. That is well worth a view. But what is art? I guess it makes you feel a certain way, or it resonates with you in some way. And for me, seeing an early '80s Escort blaring out music, that probably does have some resonance to me. So I guess I appreciate it as a piece of art. But it's much like beauty. I think it's somewhat in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
I think one of my favourites still is the Marcel Duchamp when he exhibited at one of the earliest surrealist exhibitions. It was called Fountain. In fact, it was a urinal, but he called it Fountain, and that was good enough. Sticks in the memory.
I don't know whether this just popped into my head, but it looks like someone's been trying to part you with some more money, Graham, and this time it's not because of your bongo. Someone has actually tried to scam you out of some money, it seems.
Yes, and so it turns out this is a very popular scam, so look out for it. It's essentially purports to be a message from a mobile phone. That made me wonder to start with, purporting to come from the DVSA, Driving Standards Agency, about an unpaid parking fine, and they were going to, if it wasn't paid that day, I would be banned from driving the following day as a precursor to taking me to court. So the whole thing was
Sounds
bloody
proportionate.
nonsense. I was just total nonsense. You can't be banned from driving without you go to court. DVSA, I'm sure, are not in the habit of issuing parking fine reminders. It's not within their remit at all. So if you've got a parking fine reminder from Transport for London or from the local council, that's probably genuine. But from the DVSA, no, it's a scam. If you then forward it on to 7726, they will take note of it. They will hopefully pursue it. That's the agency that deals with these things, and then just block it so that they can't come back to you. But thieving, but simply as simple as that.
And if you've had one of these messages, please do write to us. We are Don't Get Done, Get Dom, BBC.
Enclose a £10 note with your letter and don't tell anyone you sent it.
That's right. We are daytime television at. Yeah, well, there you go. That's well worth mentioning. So I suppose it's probably about time to end, except no, it isn't time to end. I need to tell you before we go that we are going to go and drive some new cars this week at the SMMT Test Day, which is usually excellent. We get to drive lots of new stuff and then tell you about it. So keep an eye on the socials. We are at UKMotorTalk everywhere. And of course, listen to the podcast.
Can I just ask a favour this time? Because the
Yes.
still one of my endearing memories of the SMMT test days is the little walk around you were doing of was it a Toyota Aygo, I think? And
It was
just
an
the bit
Aygo.
where you fall over halfway through. So I just think, so if we could do that again, that would be hilarious.
And hopefully, just for everyone's viewing pleasure, Andrew will have highlighted this for you to watch. So I'm sure you can probably find it. If you haven't seen it already, there is me falling over backwards whilst walking around a Toyota Aygo. And on that note, it really is time to end. So, yeah, don't forget not to swear and just to say bother or shout out Lord Nelson's trousers or something instead of swearing. And in the meantime, goodbye.
No comment.
Goodbye, good night, take care, and look out for deep water.
One day you go. See you next time.
UKMotorTalk, a First Take Media production.